to the All in Mountain Brook podcast, where we strive to provide families in our community with factual information in the areas of personal safety, mental health, and overall wellness. Our hope is that All In will be seen as a trusted and positive source as we navigate the ever-changing world around us and promote a collectively successful future. All in Mountain Brook provides free in-person training sessions and conferences, podcasts and webinars, online resources, and more. We hope you will consider supporting All In by making a tax-deductible donation at allinmountainbrook.org/donate. And now, whether you are on a walk, driving carpool, or have a few minutes of downtime, we hope you enjoy today's All in Mountain Brook podcast.
Hello, Mountain Brook. This is Amanda Hood. I currently serve as one of the vice presidents of programming with All in Mountain Brook, and it is my complete privilege to be here with Dr. Brett Turner. He is a friend of All in Mountain Brook, and we're so grateful for him being just a partner and an expert in one of the areas that we know our community has lots of questions about. So, Brett, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Well, Brett, I just want to tell our listeners just a little bit about you. Brett is a graduate of Mountain Brook, so here at home, currently serving as the Associate Professor of Pediatrics in Pulmonary and Sleep Medicine at the University of Alabama and Children's. So I'm sure right now you're seeing a lot of things.
We are. The back-to-school boom with all the respiratory illnesses is present.
I get it. We have been feeling that at the school too. Brett does a lot of work. His career has been really taking a specific focus on airway biology and really the impact of tobacco smoke and vape on developing children and adolescent lungs. And so you are the perfect person for us to have here today to talk about vaping. So welcome to the club. We know you've got lots of information to share. So again, just so grateful to have you.
Sure, thanks.
So I feel like people pretty widely understand what vaping is at this point. But we know from interacting with parents, there are still some misconceptions that it's not just the normal nicotine vapes anymore. There are other substances that children and people are vaping. Can you tell us what you're seeing from the medical side with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. I mean, there are lots of misconceptions about vapes and really, myths that are out there. And the one that we hear the most is, it's just water vapor. What's wrong with that with a little, nicotine added in? But you're right. Most of the vapes that students are using have up to 50 or 60 different chemicals per puff.
Wow.
Which is just crazy to think about. And it's, things ranging from the flavorants and nicotine, but also other like common household things like acetone or fingernail polish remover that you wouldn't think about and certainly probably wouldn't choose to inhale. Nicotine is by far the most prevalent component in the vapes, and that leads to the severe addiction that we see.
Right.
More recently, we've really seen an uptick in THC, or the active component that's in marijuana, in the vape pens that primarily the students and young adults are using.
We're seeing that at school as well.
Yeah, and there's such little regulation or known about the THC product that oftentimes that toxic impact to the lung is even worse than some of the other compounds that we do know more about.
It's so interesting for us, and I'll just say this kind of anecdotally. When vaping first emerged, it was you could buy a vape that was up to 50 puffs. And now students, people in general, can buy vapes that are 3,000 puffs in one device. And so it is really behavior training.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is a crazy concept that something that is so inexpensive and accessible can just train someone's behavior where the addiction piece becomes so real.
Exactly.
It's one of those things, we talk to parents and students a lot about vaping. And everybody kind of thinks, I know the basics of it. What would you say from your expertise the significant risks are, especially for children?
Yeah, I think there's I kind of view it as both the health risks and then kind of the social risks that our students encounter. So as a lung doctor, from a health standpoint, we think about this a lot, and we see a lot of students who come in and are coughing and short of breath and have kind of this chronic bronchitis picture that your great grandmother who did smoke traditional cigarettes, might have had. And so that's probably for us the primary concern that students bring. And usually that's, I can't run as fast around the track. I'm short of breath as I'm swimming. I can no longer sing with the same endurance that I was singing before as a musician, or playing my instrument as well as I did before. So from a respiratory health perspective, you're having both the symptoms but also decline in your lung function, which oftentimes is real difficult to recover.
Oh, wow.
The other big concern that teenagers bring to us is related to academic performance, and they have disturbances in their sleep. So they wake up with morning headaches, and a lot of this is related to, again, the addiction tendency and the cravings and the need to have more nicotine. And so sleep problems are real big, respiratory problems are real big. Practically for many of our middle and early high school students, acne is worse. You can have teeth discoloration, your breath smells bad, you have additional reflux symptoms. So in a group who's already used to having some abdominal complaints, those symptoms are usually worse. So those are some of the risks or health
And
things
signs,
that we see.
yeah. Like as a parent, you kind of go, hey, something's not
different.
quite right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't quite put your finger on it. But that's really good to know. I hear frequently if a student is caught vaping, let's say by their parents at home or in their car or whatever, that our students many times have done research and they think they've chosen the safest option. And they have, in their mind, a very valid argument why it helps them with anxiety or performance. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I hear that really often too. And the first thing that I just completely tell families and the students is really there's no safe vape. So that's the first thing to know. A specific call out I think right now is that our students have lots of pressures and lots of real-time reasons to be worried, nervous, etc. And if you are struggling with those feelings as a student and you're listening, I really want to encourage you to reach out for help. But a lot of students do try and treat their own anxiety with the vapes. And what we find is that your vaping actually leads to more anxious feelings. Your cravings worsen, so you're then feeling anxious about that. Most of the students in our community are high performing, high achieving. So then they're now nervous about what if my grades suffer? What if I can no longer make the top team? Oh gosh, what if I do get caught? So now I'm spending all this time and effort and energy thinking about how I'm going to disguise my vape or how I'm going to hide it from my parents.
Right.
And so we really see that vaping, it may make you feel okay in the moment with the dopamine hit that your brain is getting, but it leads to worsening and really profound anxiety symptoms longer term.
I think that's fair. We see that actively just in working with students at school. The original argument is, hey, in the moment, like you said, it helps. But then we see long-term effects, and we hear from our parents that they see the same thing. If I'm a family and I've caught my child vaping, or we discover that they've been engaging in this type of behavior, what do we do? Like, what are our steps? Are there resources available from the medical side? What would you recommend?
Yeah. First things first, take a deep breath and realize you're not alone. Okay, the most recent data that we have from the CDC from 2024 is that there are over 1.6 million middle and high school students in the United States who are actively vaping.
Wow.
And by active, that means at least once a week, and even up to 35% of those who do vape are vaping every single day. Okay, so this is a really common, it's really an epidemic among our students. So there are resources for you guys as parents. I think even before maybe you catch your student vaping, just know that open conversation and dialogue about vaping is really reasonable with all of our teenage kids. I think, asking open-ended questions. What are you seeing? Why are people using vapes? What have you heard recently about vaping, just to facilitate communication if the day does come that you end up needing to have, one of these conversations. My favorite resource for parents is the American Lung Association has a toolkit specifically designed for parents. It's online. It's really high yield points. It's a little bit of facts built in, and it guides you through the conversation. It preps you before your conversation. It helps you think through key tactics about, like, how does your teenager, what drives them, what are their goals? So how do you orient the conversation that way?
Right.
And then some follow-up. So as an easy resource, that's the American Lung Association. And then we as your healthcare providers are certainly here all the time to have these conversations, to encourage you, and to really think maybe outside of the box for what we used to do for teenagers.
Right.
We can now provide more resources to help, especially with those students who have true nicotine dependence.
Right. So if I'm in that situation, is my first call to our pediatrician? Is it to, who would you recommend if I suspect that my child has a serious addiction issue with this? Should we try to manage it on our own? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I think acknowledging it together as a family is really important.
Okay.
So speaking about it, talking about it, and really, thinking through like what are tangible like consequences that you really want to use in your household, while at the same time understanding that it truly at that point is likely an addiction already.
Right.
Okay. And so you're really going to probably need to think about this a little bit differently than you would other
A normal discipline
consequences.
thinking.
Exactly.
Right.
But yes, I think your first resource should probably be your pediatrician.
Okay.
Or if you already have like mental health care providers in your family's life, I think they are certainly experts in managing some addiction tendencies as well. So that's another group that oftentimes people will seek out. And talking to the students themselves, really any trusted adult for me is great, right? It can be a coach, a teacher, their youth group leader, you guys as their parents, really anybody that they're going to feel comfortable sharing this vulnerability with and knowing that all of our goal is to work with them through that journey.
That's absolutely fair. We, from the school perspective, when we work in schools and we have a discipline situation, the consequence is always secondary to us trying to figure out the why. Like, what is really the core issue that this particular student is trying to use a substance or solve this problem on their own? And oftentimes there are legal ways that they can get different type of support and help that can be just as helpful in that moment that they feel like they're doing it on their own.
Right.
That open conversation is huge. I know we're about to wrap up, but I have two quick things that I want to ask you. At what age would you recommend starting to talk to your children about vaping? It's just so prevalent. You see it. Sometimes you smell it when you're out, just in living life, out and about. Is there an age that you would recommend to our families that, this is probably a good time to start having some of that open conversation?
Yeah, I think unfortunately 10 is about the age that we're starting to see and hear the conversation happening.
Wow.
And in fact, there's been some school systems in the northern part of our state where elementary school plumbing has even been affected by the number of vape devices that have been flushed down. And so I think, 4th to 5th grade or 5th to 6th grade is really a reasonable time where students are aware enough, like you said, of their surroundings, walking into Publix and you see a big waft of smoke in front of you, or why does it smell like Fruity Pebbles, or you're at game day, in Tuscaloosa or Auburn, and it's certainly prevalent. It's everywhere at that point. So that's really when I would think that it would be appropriate for parents to begin to have just open dialogue about
That's really
vaping.
good information. That's really helpful, especially for our families that have younger children. And as we wrap up, sometimes all of this information can be so much to process in the moment. But if there was one piece of information that you would like to share with our community about the vaping epidemic, whether it's the nicotine or the THC, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the author and TED Talk by Yoan Yawi, thinking about addiction being the opposite of human connectedness, I think is really important. So if you as a parent are noticing that your student is becoming withdrawn or isolated, really dig a little bit deeper. If you're a student listening to this, really engage and press into those, relationships that you have that are meaningful. That really helps to fill, like you were saying, Amanda, that void or the need to try and solve a problem with a device or with the drug that is really not long-term going to be helpful. And interesting, I tell students that a vape device is one of the very few things that if you use it in the way that it's intended, we can absolutely guarantee that you're going to have both short-term and long-term health implications from it.
Wow.
And there's really not that many things that we can say about
that definitively.
That do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brett, we're so grateful. I mean, just that you were willing to step away from your schedule and spend some time. We're grateful that you're a partner for ALL in Mountain Brook and supporting all of the families in our community.
Sure.
This is a subject and a topic that is not isolated. It is widespread, and so we've all probably interacted with it in some shape or form. And so we're just so grateful, and thank you for being a part of the ALL in Mountain Brook team.
I'm happy to.
Mountain Brook, it's always great to talk to you. So grateful for everything that you do, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We would like to express our appreciation to our outstanding speakers and all-in board members who have shared their time and wisdom. William Galloway and Mountain Brook Schools for providing the podcast equipment and expertise, and to Chris Sima with Open Water Productions for producing our podcast series.